Well, hey guys, I wanted to share a tool that I created to help me plan a Katy Trail trip. All it does simply is break down for a multi-day journey where you're going to be at any particular time, so you can kind of plan, okay, where am I going to be, where am I going to camp this night, and then based on that, where am I going to have lunch, and how much time am I going to have to do this trip. So. I think it's super helpful. I hope you find it helpful too. So this is just going to be a little description of how it works, but down below in the description I have a link to download the spreadsheet, so go ahead and download it for yourself. It is in Excel. I wasn't able to use Google Docs to quite do some of the formulas that I needed, so I'm more comfortable in Excel, so hopefully you have Excel and it works for you. But go ahead and download that spreadsheet and open it up, and I'll kind of explain how it works. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice when you open the spreadsheet is you got 4 tabs across the bottom. First you got to decide which direction you're going to go, whether that's west to east or east to west. And then if you're going to be riding west of Windsor, Missouri, you have a choice. You can either stay on the Katy Trail, which goes down to south. It goes southwest to Clinton, Missouri. That's the end of the actual Katy Trail. Or at Windsor, Missouri, you can decide to take the Rock Island Trail, which goes northwest and heads towards Kansas City. So that's the decision point there. But for this example, let's just plan a 4-day trip that we're going to go from Clinton, Missouri to Watkins, Missouri on the east side of the trail. All right, so the fields that I intend for you to edit are highlighted in yellow or orangey yellow. First, you fill out your start date. That's the date you want to start. That's used for these dates down here in the estimated time of arrival and estimated time of departure columns. And then also, too, it shows you the sunrise and sunset times in Missouri for that date. So that's also kind of helpful if you're trying to figure out, how much daylight to expect during that time. Then we have the daily start time. So every day, what time do you expect you'll start riding? You can override that later, but that's just kind of the default. And then you have the moving miles per hour. So when you're rolling along, when you're pedaling along, how fast do you think you're going to go? You want to try to get that accurate as you can. I know if you've never done the Katy Trail, you may not know quite what to expect. One thing that obviously you're going to have more rolling resistance on the crushed limestone trail of the Katy Trail than you would on a road. So don't use like your average road time there. I find maybe a rule of thumb might be to reduce your average speed on a road bike by 2/3 for the Katy Trail. So like I do about, if I could do a century ride about averaging 17 miles per hour. But on the Katy Trail, I usually figure about 11 miles per hour for me. So, just kind of come up with a good estimate on there, but that's what you want to try to aim for, is an accurate representation of how fast you're going to be moving. And then below that is your rest time in minutes at every trailhead, and that I think is important to, that's where you want to give yourself time to really enjoy the ride and stop and look at things. Every trailhead has kind of some signage that talks about the history of the town that you're in. You may want to read that. You may want to just kind of sit and rest or lay down on the bench and rest. So you want to give yourself plenty of time to do that. Also, too, if in the middle of the segment, there's things to look at sometimes, too, off the trail. So you can kind of use that time to explore what's off the trail, if you encounter wildlife or a landmark or something. So anyway, that is what the rest time is for, and I would really recommend you do a minimum of 10 minutes per trailhead, maybe even like I'm doing 15 on this example to give more time to enjoy it and see things. Okay, all right, so once you have those filled out, then you start looking at the actual spreadsheet itself. Okay, so I'll just quickly go through the columns of the spreadsheet. So obviously the trailhead is the name of the town that you're going through. The Katy milepost is the milepost that is assigned to that town. You'll find a sign pretty much every milepost on the Katy Trail. Miles from the previous trailhead is what this next column is. So, you can see that Calhoun is 9.1 miles away from Clinton, Missouri, and Windsor is 7.5 miles away from the previous trailhead of Calhoun. So that's how you see how many miles you go to the next trailhead. Total mileage lists your total mileage for your entire trip. The daily mileage lists your miles for that day. That will reset every time it encounters the overnight flag over here in the break type column. Estimated time of arrival is the time that you are going to arrive in that town, and estimated time of departure is the time that you will leave that town based on your break time. As I said before, the break time is defaults to what you typed above. So I have 15 minutes typed above, so you'll see that the difference between the estimated time of arrival and the estimated time of departure on all these is 15 minutes, unless I've typed something in here in this minutes of break column. That overrides what you have in for the rest time. And so like in this case, for my lunch stop in Green Ridge, I am arriving at 11:02, and since I typed 60 minutes in there, I'm going to leave at 12:02 for my lunch. Okay, and then past that we have this info column. These are hyperlinks to bikekatytrail.com. It shows the resources available in that town and the services. And then to make things a little bit even quicker, I have columns for camping, lodging, food, and water. So you can see if there's those particular services in a particular town, because those are kind of some of the most important ones as you're riding to look at a glance. But on all these things, I would recommend going to bikekatytrail.com to verify that my information is still correct and that the business still is open and that they're open on Mondays and all that kind of stuff. So do go check bikekatytrail.com and even call the businesses just to make sure that they are still open, because you never know. And then the notes column, I have a couple little notes on the various towns where they connect to some other trail or city. Okay? All right, so so as I said, you just, in this break type column, you can type start. That starts your journey, resets all the mileage to 0. And then when you type overnight, it grays out that whole line and then restarts your mileage the next morning. So like if I decided, maybe I'll go a little bit further, I'll go to Boonville and camp, then I can type overnight in that column, and then that will gray out that whole row of Boonville and then reset my daily mileage the next day to 0. And I can see that would then make that day a 72.8 mile day. So that's how you kind of go through this and tweak it to figure out how many miles you want to take on and where you're going to camp and where you're going to lunch and all that good stuff. Okay? So that's basically it in a nutshell. So now let's pretend maybe on this particular one, so this is a 4-day ride. I have 3 overnights selected, and I can see that I would end up in Machins at 3:27 p.m. over on my 4th day. But okay, let's say, well, I want to experiment with what if I wanted to do this as a 3-day ride and maybe go a little bit faster. So all right, so instead of 10 miles per hour, maybe I'll do 11 miles per hour, and then rest time at each trailhead, I'm going to pick 12 minutes instead, and then I can just kind of see what that does to my times. And then now, and let's say instead of starting in Clinton, Missouri, I'm going to take the Amtrak to Sedalia. So I will delete the start out of that and then put start on Sedalia. All right, so now that starts my mileage there at Sedalia. Okay, and then I'm going to blank out these rest of these columns. So we're going to do this as a 3-day, I said. So I need 2 overnights. So I just kind of look down the column to see, all right, how about 5:30 in Claysville? Is there camping there? No, there is not. So how about we go to Jefferson City, to North Jefferson? Okay, so I'll make that my overnight town. Okay, so day 1 is 85 miles. That's a lot, but if I'm feeling strong, maybe I'll do that. Okay, now I got to pick a lunch town. Let's see. So New Franklin has food, so maybe I'll lunch there. So I'll type lunch in there and put a 60-minute break in there. Okay, so now I see that makes my estimated time of arrival in North Jefferson be 7:06 p.m. That's still an hour and some before sunset, so I'd probably be okay there. So that's kind of how you go through it. And now maybe my next day, I'll camp in Marthasville. They have camping there, I know. All right, that'll just be a 65-mile day that day. I'll pick McKittrick, that's close to Herman. So maybe for that, I'm going to ride into Herman. There's a note over here that you can ride 3 miles on a trail to get into Herman, which is a town that has a bunch of wineries and such. So that's a great town for a lunch stop. So instead of 60 minutes there, maybe I'll put 90 minutes because I know it's going to take me a little while to get across the road. Maybe I want to check out the town a little. So we'll do a 90-minute lunch break there in McKittrick and Herman, and that puts me in Marthasville at 4:50 after a 65-mile day. That's pretty good. And then that's that. And then so then I can see on day 3 I will arrive in Machens at 1:46. Oh wait, well I got to do a lunch for that day. So well, let's see. In St. Charles, that's a great place for a lunch. Go to the Schlafly Brewery right off the trail there. So I'll do a 60-minute lunch there. That makes me finish on May 31st at 2:34 p.m. And so that's a pretty darn good ride right there from Sedalia to Machens in 3 days. So anyway, you may want to take on less miles or perhaps even more miles or whatever you want to do. But that's why I think the spreadsheet is great for kind of planning and figuring out where you're going to be and what you're going to want to do. So I think that's the main things I wanted to show you. One thing I'll point out on the Rock Island Trail, as I mentioned, I have some notes here in red. I just wanted to point out that the Katy Trail milepost that I have in here, this actually, when you're on the Rock Island Trail, this doesn't correspond to anything that you'll find on the Rock Island Trail. The Rock Island Trail has its own milepost system, but I kind of adapted the Katy milepost systems to these towns as if they were on the Katy Trail. So just know that you'll never see Rock Island Trail mile 295 in Pleasant Hill. That's not the way it works. But it makes the rest of the miles all work properly then in the spreadsheet. So that's why I had to do that. All right, well, I wish you the best of luck planning your Katy Trail trip. I hope that spreadsheet helps. I would just say for general tips, as I said before, don't be too aggressive with your planning for mileage. The first time I did a Katy Trail trip, I was way too aggressive on my mileage and just ended up kind of having a miserable time because I felt like I was falling behind, and it was worse than when you're at work and you're falling behind in your work. That's the way it kind of felt, and that's not at all what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about relaxing, enjoying the nature. It's a beautiful trail, so give yourself time to explore it and enjoy it, take it all in. Also too, it's also good to leave some time for the unexpected. One time I had double flat tires when I hit some thorns. That can happen on the Katy Trail, especially I think in fall. So just, know how to change a tire, and I would at least bring 2 inner tubes along with you because you never know, it can happen. Bring 2 water bottles at least, in the summer at least, I would say. There's water every so often, but not every trailhead has it. So just kind of keep that in mind, especially in hot summer months. You want to have adequate water for sure. I would also recommend printing out the spreadsheet if you're going to use it. I used to try to keep it on my phone, but sometimes you won't have cellular data, so if it's like saved on the cloud, you may not be able to pull it up. It's also kind of a little unwieldy to navigate on a phone screen, and in bright sunlight, it's hard to read your phone screen. You might be dripping sweat. So anyway, do yourself a favor, print it out, fold it up, put it in your pocket, and then when you get to the trailhead, you can unfold it and see where you are, see if you have extra time to kill, or just kind of see how many miles to the next trailhead. And I think you'll find it much more enjoyable that way. Okay, again, best of luck on your ride planning, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.